Chain Soldier is back, baby! And this time, will our boy and his squad be strong enough to finally defeat the Thunder Gods? And what reward does he get next? Will he also be able to find new baddies? Or is there a chance for Bro to finally bring his sister back? This is Chain Soldier Season 2, and we're gonna recap the entire season and the gooning adventures of our #1 slave and his harem. Also, don't forget to subscribe so our hard work will be rewarded properly, if you know what I mean. So our MC, Yuuki, is as usual doing his chores and blessing us with a lot of fan service. When Bro finally finishes his slavery duties, he starts training with Kyoka. But an emergency breaks out. 8 civilians go missing. 6 are saved, but the 2 are still out there. So the gang heads out for a rescue mission, and with help from the 6th squad, mission success. And since Yuuki once again worked hard, if you know what I mean, his reward is, of course, way better. Sadly, I can't show that here or the YouTube gods will be pissed. And speaking of gods, the supreme commander of the entire anti-demon corps calls a meeting with all squad commanders, and for some reason wants Yuuki to attend too. When they arrive at headquarters, Kyoka warns our boy to never ever make eye contact with the supreme commander, or she might take an interest in him. Oh, I like the sound of that. Oh, by the way, they run into the 2nd commander, Mira Communton, and she instantly starts a booby fight with Kyoka. Inside, they meet Belle Tsukiono, who immediately starts crying because she knows her ass is about to get cooked, since her whole squad got wiped by one of the Thunder Gods. Once they enter the meeting room, every squad commander is present, and every single one of them is a baddie. We're even blessed by an actual mommy, Fubuki Azuma. And yes, she's really a mom. She's the mother of Himari and Yachiho. And gentlemen, just like Master Oogway would say, if you can't get her or her sister, you can always see their mother. Thank you, Sensei. With everyone gathered, the Supreme Commander finally makes her entrance, Ren Yamashiro. But our boy can't control his gooner instincts, sneaks a quick peek, and instantly regrets it. The meeting started when this grandma, the former commander of the 1st squad, finally announced her retirement, passing the role to Konomi Tatara. Now to the main topic, the 8 Thunder Gods. And in order to defeat them, every commander needs to learn up. But there's one problem. Ren believes not every commander is capable of doing so. And obviously, she's talking about Belle. Because of her mistake, her squad got wiped out. And now she's about to face some really hardcore training with the Supreme Commander herself. But the meeting gets interrupted. A massive Shuki army is heading straight for their headquarters. Ren sends several commanders out, and they easily wiped out hundreds of Shuki. Once they locate the real culprits behind the attack, Ren personally heads out to deal with them, bringing Kyoka and Yuuki along. However, when the 2 finally arrive, the fight is already over. Ren soloed every single one of the bad guys with her absurdly broken power, Virakana, the all-encompassing Lord of the Cosmos. And keep in mind, she doesn't just have one power, she has a lot of them. Anywho, Ren is interested in Yuuki, so she orders Kyoka to turn off her powers and gets really curious about how the reward thing works. But since Yuuki didn't do much, his reward ends up being slightly suffocating in Kyoka's boobies. And Ren was like, "That's it? Hey lady, what do you mean that's it? That should have been me, not him!" Now enough gooning around. Yuuki notices that even though Ren looks different, she kind of reminds him of his sister. Now that the squad members' meeting is finally over, later that night, Shushu bathes in the hot springs with Himari, and Shushu has a very naughty plan. With the commanders' meeting ending early, Mini Shushu secretly heads over for Yuki's room to do what she's gonna do, gooning. But as she sneaks inside, she finds something weird. There's this strange black mass that seeps through the wall, and it turns out to be one of the 8 Thunder Gods, Shikoku, who for some reason bypassed the barrier by suppressing her power. And she's there to kidnap our boy, but Shushu won't let that slide. She even has backup from Miss Tenka herself. Wait, what is she doing there? Well, also gooning. But Shikoku tries to calm everyone down, because she knows that everyone here has business with Yuuki. So she starts sitting on Bro's face. Shikoku suggests they should have a gooning contest, and Tenka agrees, and the two of them start sexually assaulting Yuuki. Shikoku urges Shushu to join in, and she almost gives in, but something feels off. Her body feels heavy. Why? Because of her boobies? Nope. There's really something weird in the room, and she realizes Tenka would never allow an enemy near Yuuki. Well, it turns out this was all an illusion. Shikoku cast a spell that trapped Shushu and Tenka, but both girls manage to break free just before Shikoku can finish them off. Shikoku is, of course, forced to retreat. When Yuuki finally wakes up, he's told that an 8th Thunder God managed to break into his room. Tenka credits Shushu for reacting first, and Yuuki thanks her, which makes Shushu proudly declare that she'll always protect him. Girl, you naughty. Now, when Kyoka hears about this, for safety, the whole squad will now be sleeping in the same room until the barrier gets updated. Meanwhile, Ren Yamashiro hears the news, and she's really interested in why everyone is onto this guy, wondering if maybe she should join as well. The next day, Kyoka and Nei use slave sparkling stars to scan the area around the dorm, but nothing sus is found. But Yuuki feels like someone is watching them from above. And surprise, surprise, it's Ren. She was up there watching the transformation, and she presses Kyoka for more details about the slave ability, making it clear she wants to ride Yuuki herself. Ayo? Once Ren leaves, Kyoka starts getting sensitive and all touchy-touchy with Yuuki. But Bro didn't know she was just preparing a backbreaker. She's pissed because she wanted him not to look at Ren, and now Ren's all over Yuuki. And that girl has her own issues. She treats people like toys, and the number one example is Belle Tsukiono, who probably has some PTSD. Well, if that were me, I wouldn't mind. Step on me, mommy. But Ren isn't their only problem. Now that she knows Kyoka's powers work, there's a 100% guarantee that every single lady in the Anti-Demon Corps will find out, and everyone will probably want to ride Yuuki. So Kyoka's instincts were right, because when the 7th and 6th units prepare for joint training, the 5th unit arrives with a dramatic entrance. The commander, Yakumo Izo, who's known for being all touchy-touchy, confirms that she also wants to ride Yuuki as well. So the 3 squads started their training, and we found out about the other 2 members of the 5th squad. Like Saki Tokuyama, aside from her cute voice, her peach power allows her to turn various parts of her body into actual weapons or armor, and Himari is learning a lot from her. While the hot mommy herself, Kaiko Itsuki, her power is the cocoon that heals people's injuries. And as the ladies were busy training, meanwhile, our boy...
Yes, I do the cooking, yes, I do the cleaning.
When the training wrapped up, the girls started heading to the hot springs, except for Yakumo. She's banned in the hot springs because she's all touchy-touchy. But even without her, everyone is kinda glazing her a bit. Like when Kyoka points out that Yakumo's wind power feels stronger than before. Kaiko even adds that she could probably wipe out an entire city at this point. Now, while Yuuki is preparing dinner, Bro notices Yakumo crawling out all tied up, and she explains that Kyoka and Tenka restrained her for a reason. So she asks our boy to untie her. Nah, don't, bro, we're enjoying what we're seeing. And thankfully, Bro ain't down bad to untie her, but she frees herself anyway, and starts asking naughty questions to Yuuki. Since she's been touching girls' bodies all her life, she wonders how men feel. But before the situation gets even harder, Yakumo suddenly senses the others leaving the bath and rushes off to watch them. And Yuuki thinks she really does live like the wind. Later on, Tenka, Yuchiho, and Sahara head out to train with the 10th unit. And that's their strategy. The squads need to train with the other squads so that when the 8 Thunder Gods start teaming up, every squad already has good teamwork. Now, Yakumo says she wants to train with Kyoka next, but asks to borrow Yuuki first. Kyoka is annoyed and asks if she learned that idea from Ren, and Kyoka warns her about the reward, but Yakumo doesn't give a shit. She just wanna ride him. So Kyoka, with no choice, finally agrees. And now, slave transformation. Bro now has wings, phoenix form. Now the two start flying at Mach speed, and they go 10 times faster when Yakumo adds her wind powers. And they're flying so fast that they easily wipe out a small group of Shuki. However, this of course makes Yuki run out of stamina. But the good part is about to begin. The reward. Now, Yakumo starts stripping, and with her wind powers, girl strips Yuki as well. Yakumo even says that if the experience feels good, she'll let him join her harem. What do you mean, bro already has a harem? And the scene gets so good that we can't show it on YouTube. But Yakumo clearly enjoys it, and of course our boy is having a hard time. Once the reward is finally fulfilled, she confidently declares Yuki a part of her harem. Later on, Yakumo returns Yuki to the 7th unit. She reports that his form works well for quick strikes and surprise attacks. She teasingly suggests they should use it together more often. Sounds like a good deal to me. Kyuka tells Yuki they'll be training with the 10th unit next, and boy, he starts wondering, what kind of training will it be? Or should I say, what kind of gooning? At the main headquarters, Gina Bizin escorts Kyoka and Yuki after being summoned by Ren Yamashiro. They arrive at an indoor garden built after Ren became commander. Ren is there playing with her 2 Shiba dogs, Kaname and Miyabi, who immediately take an interest in Yuki. Ren explains that she summoned them to test the limits of Kyoka's slave ability and to see how much Yuki can draw out under her command. Kyoka clearly isn't happy about it, but she activates her ability. Yuki transforms into Slave Killer Fang, and it's clearly inspired by the Berserker armor. This transformation is so terrifying that even Kyoka knows it's very dangerous, but Ren orders her not to cancel it and commands Yuki to hunt nearby Shuki, and bro massacres a large group of them easily. Ren is impressed at first, until Yuki suddenly starts attacking her. Bro is so out of control that Ren activates her powers, and he gets absolutely smashed. Even when Yuki regenerates and tries to use his OP move, Sacrificial Goat, Ren combines her abilities and whoops his ass. Yuki reverts back to human form, completely exhausted. Ren praises his performance and prepares to give him his slave reward, only to realize the contract forces her into, well, let's just say some humiliating actions. And even though she tries to resist, she is forced to submit until the contract ends. And even after the contract ends, she still ends up being humiliated. When Kyoka finally arrives, the reward is finally over. You can tell Ren is pissed, and when she flies off, girl absolutely cannot get over it. Back at the 7th Unit HQ, Kyoka reflects on the toll ending Yuki has taken on her. She even starts questioning why she's so pissed about other people using Yuki. Well, ma'am, that's what we call jealousy. Speaking of the devil, our boy Yuki tries to get up and train with Kyoka again, but with just one poke, bro is already crumbling. So Kyoka tells him to get his ass back to bed. At the commander's assembly, Ren orders the joint training to continue. When she asks where Yuki is, and Kyoka explains that bro's body is so messed up he can't do anything. So instead, Ren orders Belle to stay behind. Well, she is cooked. But now there's another problem. Mommy Fubuki wants to talk with Kyoka. Back at the 7th Unit HQ, Himari is massaging Yuki, and bro is clearly grateful, while Himari is definitely thinking some naughty things. But Kyoka arrives with Mommy Fubuki, and ma'am pushes her daughter aside and shows her how a proper massage is done. And Yuki is already loving it. While doing so, Fubuki announces the upcoming family reunion, the Azuma Banquet, a combat-based event that will decide the next head of the Azuma family. Himari refuses to participate, but Fubuki confronts her directly, saying that if she brings shame to the family name, she will eliminate her own daughter. Damn, mommy has zero chill. Don't worry guys, I can fix her. With no real choice, Himari finally agrees to attend. As Yuki continues recovering, Kyoka and Tenka agree that lending him out is too dangerous and that his growth should stay under Kyoka's control. While everyone else fusses over Yuki, Himari stays quiet, overthinking what's coming next. So when Himari and the gang finally arrived at the Azuma estate, this lady, Tabera Azuma, spawns out of nowhere and is very lovey-dovey with Yachiho. But she's really cold to Himari. But Kyoka stands up for Himari, saying she can do it because Himari is strong. By the way, Tabera is their grandma. What? She's a hag? Ain't no way this girl is a grandma. Anywho, Tobera leads the group to the garden and explains the Azuma Banquet, which is a battle royale to decide the next head of the family. There are 8 fighters, 4 from the main family and 4 from branch families, including some from the police force. The contestants enter a portal and spawn in a random spot on the island. Before leaving, Himari starts bullying Himari like she used to when they were kids, but Himari ain't that kid anymore. She stands her ground and promises she will whoop Himari's ass. On the island, the fighting begins. Mami Fubuki quickly defeats 2 family members, while their hidden sniper is taken out by Maya. Meanwhile, Yachiho is frantically looking for Himari to protect her sister. Himari and Yuki find themselves on a cliff, but Himari ambushes them. Himari starts stripping to use her Python ability. She dominates the fight at first, promising to win in 3 turns. However, Himari and Yuki reveal their trump card, and Yuki starts becoming a Super Saiyan with a new slave form. Even though Himari tries to run away at super speed because she thinks Yuki's buff will run out, surprise, surprise, Yuki keeps up and beats her down. She gets beaten so badly, but refuses to give up. She and Himari start doing hand-to-hand combat, but Himari easily knocks her out. As the battle ends, Yuki turns back into a human. And fellow gentlemen, have a seat, because Himari finally gives Yuki his reward. However, they get interrupted by Mami Fubuki, who watches them and actually wants them to continue. Ho ho, I like where this is going. So Fubuki starts giving her daughter some pro tips on how to reward him properly. She gets real close to Yuki and starts being freaky. Back at the mansion, the losers of the tournament are all knocked out, and Tobera announces it is time for the main event. Himari and Yuki versus Fubuki. On the battlefield, Fubuki pulls out her spear, Sunset, and the fight is on. Even though Yuki is in his sky form, Fubuki easily whoops his ass, and she starts roasting Himari, telling her she is weak and always needs someone to protect her. Mami even insults the 7th unit and Kyoka, saying they must not be worth much if Himari is their vice commander. This triggers a flashback of the day Kyoka promoted Himari and gave her the confidence she never had, and Himari snaps. Girl unleashes a massive aura and awakens her power. Himari starts spamming multiple abilities, like Yakumo's wind to blow Fubuki away, Tenka's teleportation to get behind her, and Himari's Python to land a fury of punches. She even uses Yachiko's golden hour to freeze time for a second and land every kick. Himari charges again, screaming at Fubuki to take back what she said about Kyoka. Seeing Himari's true potential, Mami Fubuki finally takes back the insult and tells her to give everything she's got. But as she's about to, Himari collapses from exhaustion in Fubuki's arms. The tournament ends with Fubuki being the winner and the new head of the family. But she isn't like Grandma. Fubuki immediately smacks Tobera in the ground and tells her to shut up and stop wearing that schoolgirl uniform. She calls out the toxic strength-only culture that ruined their family and promises to lead them with love instead. Granny was a little bit pissed, but finally gave it up to Fubuki's strength. Fubuki apologizes to Kyoka for the mean comments and thanks her for taking care of Himari. Everything ends on a good note for the Azumas, but there's a much bigger problem on the way. The 8 Thunder Gods are planning something. After the battle, everyone is taking a rest. Meanwhile, Homare tries to sneak into Yuki's room to seduce him as payback to Himari, only to find Granny Tobera already there with the same plan. But the two of them are too late, because Yuki went with Himari and Fubuki to train. Things get awkward when Fubuki accidentally triggers the lending ability by grabbing Yuki's chain. This forces Yuki into a new form called Human Bullet. In this mode, Yuki's body becomes extremely rubbery and super flexible, letting him bounce off attacks and throw a barrage of stenchy punches. Because of the contract, both mommy and daughters start being freaky. Later, the 7th unit hits the beach for a summer break. Shushu tries to use the opportunity to get close to Yuki. She even uses her power to increase the size of her boobies and tries to take advantage of the sunset. But in the end, Yuki ends up raising her instead. Finally, Kyoka and Yuki get back to training. They realize that the more Yuki is lent to the other girls, the stronger his base form actually gets. But Kyoka doesn't really like that idea. The next morning, when there's another commander assembly, Kyoka gets really pissed when every single squad commander starts riding Yuki. But turns out everything was just a terrifying dream. When she tries to walk it off on the beach, she finds Yuki there training. Bro starts telling her that he changed his mind, and Yuki wants to focus on training with Kyoka. Of course, this makes her really happy, and the next morning they quickly start training. They even develop a new move using his chain to wrap around and crush obstacles together. After a spicy reward session, an emergency alert goes off. The 8 Thunder Gods are finally making their move. So back at the Anti-Demon Corps HQ, Ren Yamashiro reveals that multiple women are going missing in the human world. They were kidnapped by one of the 8 Thunder Gods, Kusetsu. Kyoka and the chief of the 2nd unit, Mira Communton, are sent to Yokohama to take her down. While scouting Yokohama, it was explained that Kyoka and Mira are old rivals. Mira was an undefeated fighter in Okinawa until Kyoka beat her in a barehanded brawl years ago. Now they are both competing to see who will become the commander of the Corps. Mira is also pretty OP. She has the ability called All Killing, which lets her create multiple clones of herself without losing any of her original strength. Plus, her Vice Chief Megumi has a Red Soul ability that buffs Mira's power whenever she holds up a special flag. Anywho, the gang eventually tracks down the hideout. Mira absolutely destroyed the Shuki guards, while also using her clones to rescue the victims. Since Kyoka got a tiny scratch during the fight, she decides to give Yuki his reward immediately, while they are alone. The reward involves Yuki checking her for injuries. Of course, Mira walks in on them and completely loses her mind, assuming they must be engaged. But our boy made it clear later on. While Yuki is trying to sleep at the hotel, he wakes up to find Kusetsu lying right in bed next to him. She uses a feather to paralyze him and explains that since the Corps ruined her kidnapping plans, she's taking Yuki instead. Mostly because she's curious about human intimacy. She forcibly kisses him and tells him she wants to see what happens when a human and a god get freaky. So subscribe if you also want to be freaky, and I'll see you on the next one.